ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮುಖ್ಯ ವಿಷಯ ಕಲೆ ಮತ್ತು ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮ ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಲಾ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಗಳು ಹೇಗೆ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಂದಿಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತವೆ ಅಥವಾ ಹೇಗೆ ಹೊಂದಿಸ್ಕೋಬೋದು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರವನ್ನು ಕುರಿತಾಗಿ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಗಳು ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ, ಚರ್ಚೆಗಳು ನಡೀತಾ ಇದ್ದಾವೆ. ಆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಸಂಜೆಯ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನ ಕೂಡ ಇರುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ನಮ್ಮ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೀಯ ನೃತ್ಯ ವಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಿಕ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನವನ್ನೇ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ವಿನ್ಯಾಸಗೊಳಿಸುವಂತಹ ಹಲವಾರು ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರುಗಳು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಲೇಷಿಯಾದ ಶ್ರೀ ಶಂಕರ್ ಕಂದಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹದ್ದು ನಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರ. ಅವರು ತಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನದಲ್ಲಿ ನರ್ತಿಸುವಂತಹ ಬಹುತೇಕ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕೃತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಈ ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮದ ಕೋನದಲ್ಲೇ ಅವರು ವಿನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ಹಾಗೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಅಧ್ಯಯನ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಸಭೆಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಈ ರೀತಿ ತಮ್ಮ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಗಳನ್ನು ಅವರು ಪ್ರಸ್ತುತಪಡಿಸುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಹೊಂದಿಕೆಯಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಶಂಕರ್ ಕಂದಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಅವರು ನೃತ್ಯವನ್ನು ಕುರಿತಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸೋದಾಹರಣ ಭಾಷಣ ಏನಿದೆ, ಲೆಕ್ಚರ್ ಡೆಮಾನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಏನಿದೆ, ಅದರ ಒಂದು ವಿಡಿಯೋ ತುಣುಕು ಇದೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ವೀಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಲಿ ಎನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಉದ್ದೇಶದಿಂದ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವೀಗ ಪ್ರಸಾರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಅದನ್ನು ವೀಕ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ವಿನಂತಿ ನನ್ನದು.
ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ನಮಸ್ತೆ. It gives me great pleasure to present my personal ideas on spirituality and Bharatanatyam and dance. And I firstly like to thank Srimati Veena Seshadri for this golden opportunity in conjunction with her organization Kala Sampada for this beautiful conference and coming together of minds to talk about spirituality in dance. Spirituality is the core of all Indian art and particularly music. And dance in India is traditionally a limb of the Sangeeta or the music. Geetam Vadhyam cha Nrityam Trayam Sangeetam Uchyate. And Sangeetam is considered as a part of an upasana to lead to the divine realization of the self or Atman. So the musician is called an upasaka or a sadhaka who uses music as a vehicle for that purpose. And dance or nritya is nothing but a visual representation of that Sangeeta. It is two sides of the same coin, as it were. While music and dance exists on a secular level as pure entertainment, as sabha ganam, as sabha nrityam, it also exists as the adhyatmic level or the level of attaining the higher purpose. As the great saint Tyagaraja Swami would say, Sangeeta jnanamu bhakti vina sanmargamu kalave. In the hands of Saraswati, we find the Veena. In her lower left hand is the book that represents bookish learning, and it is given the left hand and a lower position in line with the stomach, which means that all academic learning serves the purpose of a vocation to fill the belly for sustenance. On a higher level, on the right upper hand, is seen the rosary or the Japamala. And this is representative of sadhana. In music too, there is a repetition of the Sarali Janta of Swaras. In dance of Adavus, of repetitive practice which leads to intuitive knowledge. Music and dance exist in the level of jnana or intuitive knowledge, and as opposed to mere vidya or bookish learning. The Veena beautifully sits in a diagonal which is laukikam on the one side to entertain the masses, and daivikam on a higher level. It lifts us up to the higher purposes. A musician may start off the carrier, so to say, purely for mercenary reasons to earn a livelihood. But that same music would take him higher and higher, take her higher and higher. One day, the natural Nadopasana that it has, the intrinsic value of that music, the Nadam, the Sahityams of the great saints would lead one to the higher purposes. And the same it is with Nritya. Nritya has two angams. The Nritta, which is the pure dance, which is abstract in its nature. And then we have the Nritya, or the expressional dance, which is Drishya Kavyam, or we show the beautiful expressions of the literature, giving it more layers through the gesture language and Mukha Bhava and so on and so on. How is this Nritya? How is this Nritta an Upasana? To make it an Upasana, the dancer or the musician has to have two kinds of sadhana. One is the antar sadhana, or the internal adhyatmic sadhana, the unseen sadhana, the gupta sadhana. And the other would be the bahir sadhana, or the external practice of technique, or the physical body, of exerting the muscles, the bones, the limbs, the legs, the arms, the entire physicality. The internal sadhana is upasana, to sit near, upasana, to sit near the deity, to sit near the guru. And in this it is important to realize that we have two kinds of gurus. We have the Diksha gurus, who are the great saints and the spiritual masters who give the Brahmajnana. They are the realized souls, the Paramahamsas, the great self-realized rishis and swamijis, who give through mantra diksha, through drishti, through sparsha, through thought. And then we have the Siksha gurus, who teach us all the vidya related to the livelihood, the learning. Now music and dance sit in a grey area, which is technical, which is physical on the one side, but on the other side, in the core of which, it is spiritual. So the dance guru or the music guru balances the two of Diksha and Siksha. The dance guru and the music guru is an upasaka, the ultimate range of which we would find great saints like Tyagaraja. He was a pure Nadopasaka. We would find the great ones who used their music as a vehicle and not merely as an end in itself. They used the music towards an end, towards the final goal of realization. The musician, on the other hand, who plays for the gallery, uses it as an end in itself, for a livelihood, to earn a certain name and popularity. This would lead to that ultimately because of its intrinsic chaitanya. So, the internal sadhana of the dancer or the musician is to have a spiritual practice of some sort. That spiritual practice translates into the body when they ultimately perform, when they dance on stage. That spiritual vibration would go and reach out. That is why it is called Kala. Because Kala represents rays. We say the Surya Kala or the Chandra Kala. Kala is Kirana. Saraswati is supposed to emit 64 Kalas or the 64 arts. So the sadhana would increase the tejas, or the sadhana would increase the light of knowledge, the light of wisdom. And when the Kalakar or the Kalagnyar in Tamil, when he ascends the stage, he has a responsibility to dispel the darkness in the hearts of those who watch. Through the beautiful aesthetic lines, the artistic lines that emit as light from his musical instrument or his physical body, which vibrates not only from the technique of the physical Bahir Sadhana, but from the Antar Sadhana. These are the traditions of the Guru Parampara. The Guru Parampara comes down with the Mantra Chaitanyam of Gurus who have given the Diksha of Nadam, of Nrityam, from the ancient times till today. Of course, in the modern day, the idea of the Gurukulam is no longer there, and the idea of dance as an upasana is vague, or rather shrouded. We take it as a hobby, or we take it merely as a kind of profession. But whatever it is, it has that seeds of beautiful spiritual samskaras embedded inside the dance, embedded inside the music. And it's just a question of time or kalakrama that over the Janmantara, this beautiful dance that we learn and we practice even in this Janma would ultimately bring us to the spiritual purpose that it sits for. There is nothing to be judgmental about how we practice it today, or how we don't practice it, or how we malpractice it, or how rightly we do it or wrongly we do it. There is nothing to be judgmental about that. The intrinsic aesthetics, the intrinsic nada, the intrinsic core of our Indian dance and music itself is the Saraswatyam. That wisdom is inherent in it, is hiding within it. And as we practice it more and more through the Bahir and Antar sadhanas, we come to the threshold, so to say, of that bliss called the divine. And so like this, through an unbroken chain of Natyacharyas who are great devotees in the core and who are great bhaktas, came this line of dance and music. And the slight consciousness that we have, even the nritta can be adhyatmic. When we do the Tattadavu, the Nirakara Brahman had the first spanda. The Natadavu was the first extensions of this Brahman into space. The Paravaladavu sees the beautiful concentric circles of the elliptical motions of the planets that revolve around the sun in the Chakramandala. The Tirmanam could perhaps tell us, from the external world of matter, we go beyond into the world of spirit. The Tirmanam, from the highest ego, the head comes tumbling down to the feet of the divine. So even in the practice of Adavus, we could inculcate an adhyatmic point of view, and that Adavu sadhana itself can become an upasana if the consciousness is shifted to think and feel that Brahman. So like this, the ancient dance forms, they serve as brilliant vehicles for us to commune with the divine. And that communication is the yoga, is the Natya yoga that we strive to practice, that we strive to live. Thanking you once again. Namaste.
ಕಲಾ ಸಂಪದದಲ್ಲಿ ಶಂಕರ್ ಕಂದ ಸ್ವಾಮಿಯವರು ನೃತ್ಯ ಮತ್ತು ಆಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮಿಕತೆ ಕುರಿತು ಮಾತನಾಡಿದಂತಹ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ತುಣುಕು ತಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಇಷ್ಟ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಅವರ ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನಗಳನ್ನು ನೋಡಿ ಇಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟಿರ್ತೀರಿ, ಅವರ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಮತ್ತು ಅವರ ಗ್ರಹಿಕೆಯನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅವರಿಗೆ ವಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದ ಮುಂದಿನ ಭಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಮುಂದೆ ಒಂದು ಸಂವಾದಗೋಷ್ಠಿ, ಪ್ಯಾನಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್, ಡಾನ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಪಿರಿಚುಯಾಲಿಟಿ ಕುರಿತಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು ನಿರ್ವಹಣೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಜನನಿ ಮುರಳಿಯವರು, ಭರತನಾಟ್ಯಂ ನರ್ತಕಿ, ಲೇಖಕಿ, ಪದ್ಮಾಲಯ ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಫೌಂಡೇಶನ್ನ ಸಹಾಯಕ ಕಲಾ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕಿ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬಂದು ಈ ಒಂದು ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಪ್ಯಾನೆಲ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ ಅಂದರೆ ತಮ್ಮ ತಮ್ಮ ಗ್ರಹಿಕೆಗಳನ್ನು, ಅನುಭವಗಳನ್ನು ಈ ಪ್ಯಾನೆಲ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದು ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿರುವಂತಹ ನೃತ್ಯ ಕಲಾವಿದರನ್ನು ನಾನು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರ್ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಕಲಾ ಸಿಂಧು ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿಯ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪಕ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕಿ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪೂರ್ಣಿಮಾ ಗುರುರಾಜ ಅವರು ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮುಂಬೈಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿರುವಂತಹ ಪ್ರಖ್ಯಾತ ಭರತನಾಟ್ಯಂ ಕಲಾವಿದ ಶ್ರೀ ವೈಭವ್ ಅರೇಕರ್ ಅವರು ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಚಿತ್ಕಲಾ ಸ್ಕೂಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಾನ್ಸ್ ಸಂಸ್ಥಾಪಕ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀ ಪಿ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಕುಮಾರ್ ಅವರು ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಭಾಗವಹಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ನರ್ತಕಿ, ಲೇಖಕಿ, ಸಂಶೋಧಕಿ ಗುರು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪದ್ಮಜಾ ಸುರೇಶ್ ಅವರು ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ, ಬಂದು ಸೇರಿಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನಿರ್ಮಿತಿ ಕಲೆ ಮತ್ತು ಸಂಸ್ಕೃತಿ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ದ್ವರಿತಾ ವಿಶ್ವನಾಥ್ ಅವರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು. ಹಾಗೆಯೇ ನೃತ್ಯ ಸಂಶೋಧಕಿ ಮತ್ತು ಲೇಖಕಿ ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾ ರಾವ್ ಅವರು ಕೂಡ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಬಂಧುಗಳೇ, ವೇದಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿರುವಂತಹ ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಲಾವಿದರು ಕೂಡ ಸಂಪೂರ್ಣವಾಗಿ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನು ತಾವು ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೀಯ ನೃತ್ಯ ಮಾಧ್ಯಮಕ್ಕೆ ತೊಡಗಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುವಂತಹ ಕಲಾವಿದರು. ಪ್ರದರ್ಶನ ಕಲಾವಿದರಾಗಿ, ಗುರುಗಳಾಗಿ, ಲೇಖಕರಾಗಿ, ಸಂಶೋಧಕರಾಗಿ ನೃತ್ಯ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರವನ್ನು ಬೆಳಗ್ತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಸಹೃದಯಿಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ವೇದಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪಸ್ಥಿತರಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಅವರ ಗ್ರಹಿಕೆಯ ಅನುಭವದ ಮಾತುಗಳು ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಉಪಯೋಗ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಭಾವಿಸ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಆ ಹಿನ್ನೆಲೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಸಂವಾದ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು, ಪ್ಯಾನೆಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ನ ವಿನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡಿರುವಂತಹದ್ದು ವೀಣಾ ಅವರು. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಆ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ನಾವು ಈಗ ಮುಂದುವರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ನಾನು ಜನನಿ ಮುರಳಿಯವರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ, ತಾವು ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಯನ್ನು ನಿರ್ವಹಿಸಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಬೇಡಿಕೆಯೊಂದಿಗೆ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Namaskara. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Vinaka, for this absolute honor to host such distinguished artists today. I don't know how qualified I am to even be sitting here, and I think the scholarly discussions that have happened in the morning have shown us but the expanse of what we are discussing. Nevertheless, what we would like to do at this panel discussion is to delve into what we understand of art and spirituality in today's world. In very practical terms, I'd like to ask a few questions, some pertinent ones that I have been thinking of as a student of the arts. So let's talk about the study of art or the study of spirituality and the manner in which they are interlinked or not in the academic study of the arts, in the performative aspects of the arts, and in the sadhana or the practice of the arts. There is one section of performers or artists who believe that dance is a grammar, is a tool of communication, which need not be associated with anything such as bhakti or spirituality. Now, the term spirituality itself, for want of a better word in English, I think I will keep using it, but please do take the freedom to use a better word as you speak. So there are people who believe that these two are very mutually exclusive of each other, and there are spiritual persons who need not have any connection with the arts. But from what I have understood, and from what we have also heard reiterated several times today, that the arts and spirituality are but interlinked, intertwined, sometimes one and the same. So do they converge at some point in time? Or do we pursue these two in parallel ways? Does spirituality impact the arts? Does spirituality impact how we present it, communicate it to the audience, as well as what does it do to the artists themselves? And how do the arts influence any spiritual path that one takes, whether one is an artist or not? So these are, I hope I've set a certain context with what we'd like to do at this panel discussion. I hope to open with Dr. Padmaja Suresh to tell us how she would define these terms of esoteric. Yes, she's not here, so I'd like to throw it open to the rest of you now. Yes, she will. Yeah, sure. I'd probably start with how does each one of you, in if we can do a short 1 minute definition round of what you think is art, what you think is spirituality. Are they one and the same, or do they find a convergence at some point? Can we start with Purnima Gururaj ma'am?
I went through some dictionary definitions of spirituality and found the word happy, oneness with the mind, lot of definitions like this, joy. So I didn't believe very much in the word spirituality too. I was looking for an alternate word and couldn't find one. I'll be happy if somebody else does. But as being a teacher, starting with the practice, we heard the word going inwards a lot today. And since it's just a 1 minute opportunity, I'll make a quick reference to the start of the practice that we do with kids and what we have done. The very shloka, yato hasta tato drushti, tato mana tato bhava tato rasa. So that creates a kind of silence, I think. First we teach the kids to follow their hands with their eyes, and then the mind is stilled because of that intense concentration of following the hands. And so half the class follows the hands and half the class doesn't. And even with very young children, they say, we feel happier when we follow our hands. And nobody can describe that happiness. And I don't expect them to till 12 or 13 years of age. So if you call that joy and that involvement and that stillness that's created in them and the happiness that they feel after spirituality, yes, I think it's one, and it starts from the very beginning of the practice.
Vaibhav sir.
Namaste. What I would be speaking, to be honest, is from a very practitioner's point of view. We have academic discourses on what spirituality can be, on Adhyatma can be. But I don't come from that background. For one, I come from a very urban locale of Mumbai. Fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have a religious background of my parents being kind of ritualistic or believing in things. Their beliefs or disbeliefs, I have no idea. And so luckily, I should say fortunately, I'm looking at Bharatanatyam itself as a Shastra and my connection to the past of what the tradition has been, what the parampara could be. So in a way, I'm not loaded with any ideas that came to me. And so it's a first-hand experience of looking at what this would mean. More than Adhyatma, there's one thing that is for sure, that over the period, as you practice it, when you do your riyaz, there is an out-of-body experience that keeps coming to you, and which becomes necessary to have every time you go back on the floor, on practices. It is not connected to being on stage, because on stage is another ball game together. But just being there and practicing every day, does it give you an experience? It gives you an experience which becomes intoxicating, which becomes addictive, in the sense of it gives you happiness. And as you study and learn, you realize that you're only Ananda Rupa. And so if you get this Ananda when you practice, and exactly as she said, that if this happiness comes to you, which is nothing to do with this material world, it is not even to do with, it's probably just an experience of something beyond the power that you are, the power that the universe is, and it happens when you're rehearsing it. It also filters in performances, but performances, as I said, have other paraphernalia that you'll keep looking at. And that for me is Adhyatma. It pulls me, it makes me a better human being, definitely, which is a conscious practice.
I think Dr. Padmaja Suresh has just joined us. Ma'am, would you like to come onto the stage? If I can continue with her. So Dr. Padmaja Suresh, we just set a context to what we will be discussing over the next half an hour, and then we'll throw it open to the audience. So I'd like to start by asking you, I think many young dancers, maybe my peers, maybe people younger than me as well, very often throw around words such as esoteric, I am doing something metaphysical, I am doing something inspired by Tantra. But do we really understand these words in its entirety? So if you can throw some light on it, so that the next time somebody says it, that they really know what they are saying. Yes, sure. It's like some water.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Firstly, generally, have I missed out on something? Because
We
Has
were
it just started?
we just started, so we were
Okay,
just setting pace to what do we understand by spirituality, and Vaibhav sir and Purnima ma'am.
Posing a question on
Yes,
esoteric
we
and
wanted to start with
metaphysical
you,
and all
so
that.
as soon as you came, I bombarded.
So I think the whole topic today is on art and spirituality, right? So let us understand spirituality just as naturally as possible, without trying to use terms which we are not familiar with. Generally, I'm saying it. After completing personally a thesis in that subject for close to 5 years, I started opening up about it after another 5 years. Because what is spoken about in the metaphysical realm or the esoteric subjects is not something which is really open for public consumption. Whereas when people are in dancing, we should rather be focused upon what we have picked up from the gurus over the years and how we have tried to improvise in as much its own innate beauty and its own raw spiritual self that it is capable of, making one understand the deeper layers. But if you start using terms like Tantra, then you are playing with, now it is Durgashtami today, so you are at the right time, playing with certain powers that can throw open a lot of possibilities within you and outside of you. It's like playing with energy, and energy is something all dancers are so much masters of, the very breath that we take, and it's all on a positive note. Whereas the subject per se can also make you come close to the other side of these energy possibilities, which is not good for even public discussion, or there are people who call me and ask me, ma'am, can you just tell us which mudras of Tantra can we use on stage, because I'm trying to show the Sri Chakra and things like that. When I say that, what is the purpose behind it? What is it that you're trying to actually prove through this? It is only for your own self revelation, or if you want to get closer to that Shakti or have it as a sadhana in you, which can later on definitely give a very positive change in your own outlook to dance, then it is okay. But just borrowing from such heavily loaded subjects and then using them on stage to the present times is rather not recommended. Of course, the greatest commentator of Natya Shastra was a Tantrika yogi. Now, Bharata himself was a Tauryatrika, Sutrakara was a Trika, Tantrika. But never in the Shastra has he made it so explicit that, it is actually a Tantra, or you're actually using those energy circles within you and things like that. Have I answered you or posed another question? I don't know.
No, maybe not, but I think it leads us into what I wanted to ask Dr. Vidya Rao. When we study spirituality of the arts, within the arts, or study it as a subject, does it influence the performance? Have you seen it being communicated to an audience? One. if there is a concept that is, like you said, something that is very esoteric, how does it translate into communication to an audience? And does it also translate into a sort of, like you said, looking inward? Like I think we've heard a lot of that. Looking inward, does it translate when you study it as an academic subject?
Namaskaram to everyone. For me, this question of spirituality and arts is, I feel very disturbed, because there is no art form in Indian context which does not teach or does not aim towards the spirituality. Everything, whatever we have, it is from the Shastra. Shastra is not written as overnight. It is with the penance. So the essence of the penance is Shastra. It has its own power. As a learner, as a practitioner, as a researcher, as a dancer, as a musician, everybody, we seek our knowledge from our Guru Parampara. As I need not have to say much about the Guru Parampara, as already Jayachandran ji has said. Parampara, yeah, we follow the Parampara of Guru, where we take the knowledge from Guru to Shishya and to the Prashishyas and everybody like that. So while transcending this knowledge to the next generation or the next our peers, whomever we call, is it possible to transcend the spirituality? Is that the question you ask?
When you study esoteric subjects, I mean, I'm saying spirituality because that's a word that we've been using, but in studying these subjects, how does it translate into communicating it to an audience? Does it at all?
See, in the physical,
or is it lost in translation?
Yeah. Art is murta and the spirituality is amurta. It is an abstract thing. Yes. So to achieve that abstract thing, you have to work very hard with the murta, the absolute thing. Art becomes absolute then. Right. So music and dance as a practice, we practice. For certain level, it is a practice. Morning, somebody asked this question to the public and even to the speakers also. So how long it can be a commercial, how long it can be spiritual, when it can translate it to spiritual. See, once you know the technique of the art form, once you have reached a certain level in the dance or music or any art form, you have to elevate yourself, because that is the purpose of art, to elevate yourself to the higher level. So when a dancer dances, it is her own journey from physical level to metaphysical level to reach the higher spirit, to understand. It is not possible for a small kid to understand what is spiritualism, what is Advaita. As Bhanumati ma'am said earlier, it's not that easy to make them understand, because they are all in the up to 18-20 years they will be in the same mode. After that, learning dance, performing here, there, and all the chamak and damak, it will be going on. When they really start learning what is dance as an artist, see, I am a dancer, but when you want to become an artist, you have to work very hard. It is quite a distant place. Dancer, musician, anybody can. But when you want to become an artist, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ತಯಾರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟು ಮತ್ತು ಇಂಡಿವಿಜುವಲ್ ಎಫರ್ಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸಿಲಿ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಬಿ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ಡ್ ಟು ಸಮ್ ಆರ್ಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಟು ದಿ ಅದರ್. ಬಟ್ ಟು ಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದಿ ಲಿರಿಕ್ಸ್. ಲಿರಿಕ್ಸ್ ವಾಟ್ ಈ ಸಂಗೀತದಲ್ಲಾಗಲಿ ಡ್ಯಾನ್ಸಲ್ಲಾಗಲಿ ಯಾವ ಮೀಡಿಯಮ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು, ಆ ಮೀಡಿಯಮಿಂದ ವಿ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ರಿಲೇಟ್ ಇಟ್ but we cannot take them to the higher level. ರಸಾನಂದ ತನಕ ತಗೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ಬೋದೇ ಹೊರತು, ಬಟ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ದ ಆರ್ಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್. ಆರ್ಟಿಸ್ಟ್ ಎಂಜಾಯ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಆದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಇರೋರಿಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟಾಗಿ ಕೊಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ರಿಸೀವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋ ಎಂಡೂ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಂಗ್ ಆಗಿರಬೇಕಲ್ಲ. That is what I believe.
Okay, so the audience, how much the audience takes from
Yes,
the artist
exactly,
is not something that is under your control.
Yeah.
And you don't believe that they will be able to take
They will take it. Only to certain point, that's all.
Okay.
Not to the full extent of the
Sahridyata.
Huh?
Sahridyata.
Sahridyata,
Whatever they
yeah.
understand.
Yes, yeah. Okay, okay.
ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆಗಳು ಎರಡೂ ಇದೆ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ.
Can I
Both
quickly
sadhya
add
and-
something to this?
Yes,
Just one
definitely.
point. I agree with what she's saying also, but between bhava, like you're saying what the artist does and what the audience experiences and rasa and everything, I think before all this there's a thing called bhavana that an artist has to experience. So that academic study, what you were mentioning,
Yes.
becomes
and dwelling into that and analyzing, I think facilitates bhavana in an artist, maybe intensifies or adds to their expression.
Okay.
So there might be a greater communication with the audience or not, it depends on sahridyata, but that bhavana intensifying in an artist definitely elevates a performance, I think. And that study and that, what do you call, Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana, the abstraction and the thinking about it certainly facilitates
Right, okay,
a
okay.
performance.
Okay, thank you. I hope that was. So, moving from the context of studying to the content of what is popular nowadays in the performative aspect as well. When we talk about the Margam, we did have a very tiny discussion outside with Praveen Kumar sir about how there was an intent. You said you had a discussion as well about there was a certain intent with which pieces and items were put in place for a Margam. So I'd like to ask Dr. Dwarita, when you take a Padam or a Javali, just by looking at the content, do you think there is spirituality within content, or is the spirituality not in content but in a certain experience that you create? So I'd like you to differentiate between studying a Padam as, like I can say, a very academic theoretical study of the text, the lyrics, the poetry in itself, and how it translates into movement as a performer. So is the spirituality in the content, or is the spirituality in the experience that the movement creates?
ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. ವಂದನೆಗಳು. I come from a small temple town with a very religious background. For me, everything starts from God and ends with God. So, very ritualistic family. So, for me, when I look at dance, art is meant to uplift both the dancer and the spectator. Coming to Margam in particular, the Margam itself came into being towards the end of Bhakti movement. So it has a lot, historically when you look at Margam, it has a lot of influence of the Bhakti movement. So in Margam, even today, whatever we are performing, has a lot of items, or at least most of the items are from the Bhakti movement. They are meant to create Bhakti. And is Bhakti and spirituality same is the next level of question, where yes, Bhakti and spirituality is not same, but then we've believed, at least I have been brought up to believe, that you do your karma every day. Do your karma every day, do it with bhakti, and one day you will realize God. So one day, one kshana, when you are doing your karma properly, you will realize God. So bhakti will lead you to that. So Padams and Javalis that you see today is a watered down version of this, where Krishna is brought down as a small child, Muruga is brought down as a lover boy. So we see him as the Nayaka. There is Nayaka concept. I'm sure all of you know about that, and I'm not going to explain what the Nayaka concept is. So the Jivatma, the Nayika who's yearning to be with the Paramatma, so that I think is nothing but based on spirituality. So Padams and Javalis are based on spirituality. But then, does it reach the audience when it is performed? As we already discussed, there are two aspects to it. One is the intent of the dancer, and two is the sahridyatva of the audience. They need to come with a mindset to take what we are giving. So unless they come with that mindset, they would not be able to take it. Yaro heladru, I think somebody said the costume of the color, JC sir said costume color ಕಾಣಿಸಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾಣಿಸುತ್ತೆ ಸರ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಅದೇ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ನಾಗರ ಉಡ್ಯಾಣ ನೋಡಿದ್ಯಾ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳೋರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. I think that is the beauty of this art also. It caters to anybody, everybody. You want to take that, please take that and go. You want to take that, please take that and go. It caters to everybody, right from somebody who wants to just look at different color costume or a jewelry to somebody who wants to be initiated. If you come with an intent of watching the Paramatma on stage, seeing Rama there. How many times we have seen Rama on stage without, we've forgotten and clapped our hands and, sat there with tears rolling down our eyes. Each one of us as artists, we have undergone that. Tears rolling down our eyes, that is because we have gone with that intent. So the sahridyatva is as important as the intent of the dancer. If the dancer, I know it looks very... Kamala Hassan, actually, I know it's not the place, but then Kamala Hassan in a movie says, Salange Oli ansatte. He says, if your intent is about the award, avanga kudukra award melin taptra chappale mele, avanga tatra kai tattu mele da unga gamanam nakke, that is where your dance will stand. But that's the Tamil version of it. Salange Olile, he says that. So if that is what you are thinking of delivering, that is what will be delivered. If you are thinking of delivering something more, and if you are saying that you are going to not see me but the Rama that I am showing, and that is what will come out. So I hope I've answered your question.
I interfere here because just a few days back in the Navratri itself, maybe on Wednesday I believe, the intent, content, lyric, how they receive everything we were talking, and I went to my friend's house for this Navratri, and she had called many people, and when I went, as usual, it was late and everybody went out, and
Yes, it is.
so there were very few people, 7 people. It's quite a big house. So we were sitting, and she said, Vidya, she's my dance classmate from last 35 years. So she asked me, she left dance in between, and I continued. And she asked me, why can't you, Vidya, dance one small piece for us? I said, I could not refuse her. So I said, only few of your family people are here. Okay, just play Jagadodharana, because everybody knows Jagadodharana. Song gottide ant helbittu I started. There was a small puppy there, Pomerian, and it was almost this distance. Both my friend's husband and daughter holding that puppy and sitting. I told her to play Jagadodharana. She just played the Jagadodharana. As soon as I entered, holding a child Jagadodharana, and ಇನ್ನು ಮೊದಲನೇ ಸಲ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ವೆರಿ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಐ ಆಮ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್, ಐ ಆಮ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್, ಮೇಕಿಂಗ್ ದ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ಮೈ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫೀಡಿಂಗ್ ಸಮಥಿಂಗ್, ದಟ್ ಪಪ್ಪಿ ಕೇಮ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಸಿಟ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್ ಮೈ ಲ್ಯಾಪ್. ಸೊ ಹೌ ಯು ಈಸಿಲಿ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದಟ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಕ್ಯೂಟ್ ಪಪ್ಪಿ, you can easily connect with. It can easily connect what I was doing.
Hmm.
So that is how a prekshaka, if the Sahridaya is in the receiving mode, you can easily connect with them. That is the intention and the purpose of the art, actually.
Okay. So, of course, like we're talking of the Sahridayata, it also brings me to the question of the space in which we perform. From the time when it was in temples to a time when now it's a stage, a proscenium, sometimes. Yes? Yes, yes. I think everybody can add to the conversation. I think as performers, we've all felt that certain spaces tend to give you a certain sense of peace and calm, whereas you may not feel the same in certain other situations or certain other spaces. So what is it that, is that also something to do with spirituality? I think I'll open it out to all the performers here to. Okay, I think Praveen, on popular demand, maybe you can start off the
No,
conversation.
as a performer, from a
Yes.
performer's perspective, I'd like to hear from Praveen about.
From one space
Because
to another.
you've
do you
performed in
sense-
innumerable spaces outside the country.
Exactly.
I think, okay, namaskaram to everybody. See, I think it really doesn't matter sometimes as a fact of matter where you're performing. See, when you're invited to perform, I don't think we just think about now whether this is going to be a stage or a house or something. Just like what Mrs. Vidya was saying, I don't think when somebody asked her that, would you dance now immediately right in front of in my house of my parents, as an artist I'm talking about, if something would come to me, for me it really doesn't matter whether I'm really dancing in Seva Sadan or Chadoya Memorial Hall or in your house. My goal or my aim is what? To reach something, an ultimate, whatever generally we say, okay, about Jivatma, Paramatma, or whatever it is. So my aim is what? To reach out to something, to other person which I have experienced. So for me, that's what matters to me at that moment, when I'm dancing in a particular space. So for me, space as such matters only when there are too many conditions around me which are hovering around me. If I say, okay, I need this particular light for this dance, I need this particular thing, technical requirements for me at that space. But if you're just trying to share your art experience with somebody to reach out to something, space as such, for me personally, really doesn't matter to me.
Okay. But Praveen, here can we add that space is also comprised of the people around, isn't it?
Yeah.
So there are times when there can be obstacles caused by the people, like too much chattering, or there is an eating and drinking going on. So many corporate shows and things like that. So that also has to be considered, which can be a bhanga to your attempt to even make this effort to reach out on a spiritual journey.
Yeah, but
stage per se doesn't really
yes,
matter,
that's what
like
I
what
was
he
talking
says.
in
Definitely
terms of
not.
stage
Yeah.
as such. Yeah, because see, when we keep an
Can be a
audience
temple is
as
much
mind as
vibratory
space,
as a place without actually being a temple.
see, the moment I think we keep audience as a space, then automatically your dance doesn't become your own journey. Then you start planning according to their terms and conditions. It's like doing a corporate show. Because, right, we're trying to cater to them. They'll say, okay, if you ask me to tomorrow somebody invites me to perform in your festival, I would seriously think of doing a Padam or a Javali. Tomorrow some Will's Factory, something they invite me to do, I'm not going to do a Padam or a Javali. My space is different at that time. I'll automatically try to cater to their space. So I was talking more space in the sense as such, giving me to express myself. So that space is mine. So
the energy that you create is your own. It's not something that is lent to you by the space around you.
not really. For
Not-
me, that is what I feel for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that
are you
energy of mine which is there, I'm trying to spread it out.
Okay. Okay.
I've had a very different experience. I learnt with Kaushik, who's a very old-fashioned teacher in Karnataka, and he would always say, as a performer, once you come on stage, all your sukham, dukkham, everything should end here. And from here, you know, your dance persona, your whatever spirituality or your joy or your whatever should come out. So irrespective of what space you're in, at that time you're catering to that audience. So that's from an audience perspective. But since you use the word temple, I just want to share a quick experience. Chidambaram is my most favorite deity and temple to go to, and I do feel energy in that place when I have danced, and I don't tell any of my students that it's this big or it's been laid on this axis and there are so many other wonderful things happening, except for the ton of gold on the roof. We don't talk much about anything before I take them there. Every Arangetram before we perform, the kids do their whole margam, not even in the front of the deity, in some corner of a corridor that we have been assigned, and 99% of my students break down. They're not able to go through the Varnam, and they're not able to explain this. We don't talk. For most of the 7.5-hour journey from Chidambaram to Bangalore, there's one deathly silence, except for that movie playing in the Tempo Traveler or something. I don't know if this is an experience of energy or spirituality or whatever. I had a student who was an atheist, doesn't believe in God at all. Nothing happened to her in the Chidambaram temple. And then we came to the Silambakutam in Kittappa sir's house. And so she went around looking at all the pictures on the walls of all the great people who have learned there and all the people he's met. And then we were telling them that Silambakutam is that small place where all these legends learned and performed. And when she stood there, she broke down. So I think, like you said, different spaces have different energies, and it's what you connect with, I think, personally as a person and as a dancer.
And for a change, a few artists, including me, we had a chance to perform in the Garbhagriha of Kameshwara temple in Kerala, Kannambuli, right in front of the sanctum. And that afternoon we were given, each of us, one story, and I was given Dakshayagam, and just a couple of musicians were there to accompany us. So that level of your own involvement with the Supreme Spirit is something which we cannot even communicate except through dance. So less spoken of the better. Whereas these experiences of crossing over to the transcendental self can happen in any other good fine arts auditorium. Chembur Fine Arts, I was doing Kali Kautum, and the podium was pretty high, at least 3 times this, and I'm short. And I was supposed to get down those steps, but that moment I literally took a jump, and this male dancer who was with me, he was the Rakshasa. He says afterwards, "Padmaja ma'am, I didn't see you, I was so scared." So that can happen even in any other auditorium. The level of your Satvika experience can translate and get into the transcendental level.
With the space. Okay. So coming back to Vaibhav sir, on stage, is there a moment when you feel spirituality, or is it towards the end of a performance that you feel a sort of contentment that we talk of? Is that what is spirituality, or is it while you are performing that you feel a certain sense?
It's while you're performing. There are many moments that come to you. Of course, you can't earmark them and say, I'm going to feel it here. Because that's where the Satvika comes in. You practice your Satvika in your Riyaz time so much that let it flow. The whole technique is to, the whole process is to learn your technique so much that you're about to let it falter, let it go, let it fall. It's going to carry you. Only then will the experience come in. When I bothered about my technique for first 7-8 years, I'm not letting it come because I'm much tensed about it. So it's not the end of the performance. Many a times the Varnam reaches a high point and you feel this is enough, I should stop here. But of course you have to continue till the Tilana. And so it will continue, but you've got to reach a high point at that particular, so it's in between a process. And the day you are, like they ask us, which was your best moment on stage. I said, I can't tell you which moment because the moment I forgot myself was the best moment. And I can tell you when did I forget myself. If I remember this was a great point, how the audience laughs, I'm looking at how they are laughing at me. And you know your touch points, of course. You know this has to elicit laughter, this has to be a point, but you're trying most of the time to say, forget yourself. You're praying for this energy to say, forget yourself. It will happen, it will happen. And what happens on stage, you're looking so many points, you know. I'm looking the light man looking at me and he's not on the center. I say, okay, I'm looking the cross, take a turn, which I don't do in my practices. I do it, we mark it out. So obviously these hindrances is what you look through, perform, have you taken the right light? Every time we have different floorings,
Yes.
different lighting areas. So the cross light is going to come from which area you don't know. So I'm telling you, light man, give me a little before, where do I run? And it's an intense moment that I'm running, but I have to look at the light and run. Looking where will the light come, where will the light come from?
Yes.
But apart from that, it has become a part of you.
Yes. I think that also brings us to the point of when if there is a deity in front of you, like you say, there is a deity in front of you that you're dancing to, whereas dancing to a light or dancing to the console behind you, how does that impact?
But just to add what you said before, you know, I personally find there are spaces which speak to you. If we just heard how water can have memory, I feel there is something that the space, when I walked into this space, I said I wanted to dance here. Like you're looking forward for the 6:15 point at this point, that you want to experience something here. I don't know whether I want to be a super hit performance today. I don't want it. As many people have invited us, don't come back from Srimandi Yogi. Look at what is inside.
Yeah.
Look at us if we can not show you dance. So the space for me has memories. When I go to Shivaji Mandir, I'm already looking at how people have worked in here, how these actors have gone inside these green rooms and come back, the smell of the green room. It creates an atmosphere for me.
It does. Okay.
It does.
Yes.
And I know faces which have left me dry every time I've performed. I've tried my best to be there, but the space just doesn't. It works for an audience. Huh? Of course, you can't tell them honestly where you were, as we said in the morning. Sometimes you are okay, you say, oh God, I didn't. And the audience comes back in tears and says, you're fantastic. So I will not reveal to say, okay. Because I don't know what I've achieved. Nobody knows, no? When have you connected? How do you know? You're technically going through it.
Right.
So
when you talk of reaching a high point and then anyway you have to continue because that is decorum.
Yeah.
Is it something that is imposed on a performer from a societal perspective? Can a performer actually say, you know what, I've reached my high point, I'm going to stop at this point? I'm really asking. Apart, if you had to leave aside any sort of decorum or regulations that we set upon ourselves because you are meant to finish up to Tilana, is it possible for a person? Because isn't that the purpose of it?
No,
From my very limited understanding, I'm asking a very silly question.
I don't know whether I've reached that high point. I feel it at that point. But you're still hoping that when I do Krishnani Begani Baru, I might still get something much more than what I am.
Getting greedy.
So obviously you're going for the experience. It is a point when you feel, okay, I just want to stop here. Sometimes I envy the singers who can do that, you know. They can just do nothing, you know. Here I want to just stop, but I can't stop. I can't take 2 avartams, do nothing and just stand on stage. Because I'm enjoying being there. A vocalist can do it and you accept him and you pardon them, it's okay. He can take half the run and say, TMK can cry and will say, it's okay. That was great. If I want to do that, just wait for a moment and experience this and let it happen. You're bound by a lot of time, space. So you're always looking for more experiences.
Okay.
For me, at least.
Yes.
Don't some divas do it actually?
You can,
I have watched Yamini ji and Birju Maharaj actually do this in my younger days when they used to perform. They just say this to the orchestra and just stand there for 2 minutes.
Yeah, it can happen. I mean, it's okay.
So does the form curtail that?
I mean, I'm just saying this for an example.
I feel you might reach a point there. It's not that you can't.
No, like she was like Purnima was saying that she saw Birju Maharaj or somebody saying that. I think maybe it depends upon the form also. I don't know, because in Kathak you kind of you can just take a break. You can do all these things. I can say, please play. The tabla will be playing 1-2 avartanams, right?
Also probably to our training that we come from. You'll be looking at a teacher, she'll say, what she'll do? If your yatta doesn't come to that point, I'll remember Tangami teacher who told me after the entire performance, she said, you did your yatta beautifully. So every time I dance a yatta, her memory comes back to me. When I walk back, she said, okay, 1 line is enough, no? But I want to take 2 lines, no chance. So probably also conditioned in that. But now I'm at reach a stage when I can explore, or probably I'm at, let my next generation say, it's okay, we can wait one more line, breathe. It's fine.
Yeah.
In a form like Bharatanatyam, already in a Padavarnam, you get those breaks, right? You do a Sahityam, then you do the Jati, and then. So ultimately, you're a Patra. You're a vessel carrying the message of spirituality also to be conveyed. You can't just go on with the same line. So certain items here also offer us that scope, isn't it? To switch off from one to the other and take a different kind.
Yes. It does bring us also to the question of how many years into performing, studying and practicing that it gets to a point where you do become a patra, because we still live in a very, I mean, on a day-to-day basis when we watch performances, we're still looking at the person, and very rarely do you look beyond the person. So should not happen in a very utopian world. I don't know if
The whole journey is from third person to second person to first person and ultimately no person.
no person.
So even the audience watching a person, I don't think will give them that complete rasa brahma aswada or whatever. They have to see the art beyond the person.
Beyond
the artist, yes.
Beyond the artist, yes. But that is a very
That
utopian
experience
world.
has happened with me also,
Oh.
because I sincerely thought Alarmail Valli was like 5'7" or 8. The first time I watched her perform, and when she came off stage, there was this 5'2" petite person. She created such a big personality on stage. So I think that does happen. You
It
do
does.
get to see beyond a person sometimes.
Sometimes, and that's the important word for a lot of us. But coming to a very practical and something that we keep hassling with today is the financial viability of the arts. Many of us do it for a livelihood. So when it does become a means to live, to earn, where does the impact of spirituality come onto the arts, and how does the means of livelihood impact any spiritual path that you would take? If Praveen can talk about that.
See, if you're talking something like utopian system as such, I really wonder, was it ever there? Like today morning, Jay was talking about, it's like a Bhavasagara. See, all of us live in a Bhavasagara. There's a constant struggle. It's been there from ages, only the actors have changed. Right now, we are all the actors, right? So when you talk about Ethiopian system, like in what context are we talking? If you look at from Ramba Urvashi time, even they were kidnapped. They had a tough time. We had to get somebody like Punarvasu, somebody to come and save them or something, right? So today when you're talking about these kind of systems wherein the support system as such, see, we are all aware how the system works. And we are all here because of our own personal choices. We know what the situation is. So our aim is what? We are here because there's something we want to share the experiences what we go through with the other person. So the goal is same in the sense to reach something. Again, I would come back to say that the goal of reaching the Jivatma to Paramatma thing. But then again, why are we taking into consideration these aspects financially as such? Because we know it doesn't work here. And when you talk about spirituality and this financial thing, let me just tell you, I'll just give you an example. I have a friend who is in America who never taught dance when that person was in Bangalore. Never ever. Just was happy dancing everywhere. But now in America, a flourishing dance class. Great. Happening. I did inquire about him because sometimes I do help them with the costumes and other things, because every once in 6 months I'm constantly sending 20 costumes, 20 sets of jewelries to them. that person said, if I can bring an happiness to somebody in dancing, we're not talking about the quality or anything. Bringing them on stage, making them in happiness. And in the beginning, these two people said, spirituality, what do you mean by asking? They said, something,
Joy.
and happiness, something feeling good, whether I'm on stage or off stage. That is what. So now, when we're talking about the financial thing or the art and spirituality, I still feel that person is still a part of the spirituality path. Because he is still giving them some happiness to somebody. Okay, financially, that person may be making whatever money it is. So we are looking only to the financial aspect, is it? Or are we also thinking that he's giving some kind of happiness to the group of people who are coming onto the dais? So here I think it is left to us to decide what kind of path of spirituality we are talking about. Spirituality in the sense, is it just with myself as a dancer, feeling happiness, sharing my thing, or spreading it to the whole, to the community or whatever it is. So for me, the sense of Ethiopian system, I really wonder, does it exist ever, or will it ever come, honestly?
Right. I think somebody wanted to ask. Yes.
I would just like to add. The Indian thought is dharma, artha, kama and moksha all are together. Dharma, artha and kama should lead to moksha. Why is it that every time, even in the morning I was wondering, why is it that every time we say, okay, we are earning money out of it, which means this is not spiritual, or, you can't follow the spiritual path. This is our own journey. So even if you are doing dharma, even if you're doing your karma, you have your journey that is going. So that is what they say, the lotus, LML, the water. The water bindu which is there on the lotus leaf. You are there, but it is supposed to be that you arpanafy everything to Krishna and say, okay, Krishna, Sarvam Krishna Arpanamastu. It is for you, but this is my duty. I am here, I am born as a daughter, so I have duties as a daughter. I am married, so I have duties of a wife. I am a teacher, so I have a duty as a teacher. I am a performer, I have duties as a performer. I have to do everything here while I travel my journey. So I don't think we can take away spirituality from our everyday, day-to-day life of right from cooking to doing puja to performing to teaching everywhere. That is what spirituality to me is. It is so intertwined in my life that I'm intertwined in our lives that I don't think I will be able to separate it and say, okay, this is this, this is that.
So here I can add in one more, is Tantra is where Natya can be, in this particular argument, very well fitted into, because in that marga, nothing is wrong, nothing is taboo. It's unlike the Viveka marga, where, riches is maya, or this is illusion, you have to give up that. Unlike that, in this, it is like Shiva enjoying the company of Shakti. So the witness or the transcendental self is very much in joy, even with all the changing world, everything that comes to you, loads of riches, abundance, it is the goddess. Why say no to it? At the same time, if you're bound by it, then your spiritual journey is stuck.
So to stand away and look at it as an observer, like I think we heard over the lectures in the morning as well, probably, I do have several more questions, but I'd like to open it out to the audience as well.
One second, I want to ask,
Yes.
What was your idea of utopia?
She said utopian kind of, earlier.
When we talk of a utopian, as in a perfect world where you are
Perfect.
provided for, and all you do is immerse yourself in the art.
Just do your art, everything is
So,
taken care
but
of.
That doesn't
So,
exist.
that doesn't
Exist. I think
Yes,
it's a
which is-
binary.
yes. So,
that's what I said.
Spirituality is a very individual journey, and then that's what I wanted to say, so I stopped. Purusharthas. All of them lead to moksha anyway. And Artha is a very healthy part of it. So.
Integral to it.
Yeah, the karma, whatever the profession we choose, karma. It is not the karma or sex or something. It is the kamane, atva ase. Whatever the profession we choose, artha, what we get out of it. So dharma, if it is in the circle of dharma, we attain moksha.
Right.
So that is how we reach the purushartha. No, every art form has this hierarchy and the goal.
Right. Okay. Does anybody in the audience like to ask a question? Get a. Yes. Can I get you a
Mic.
This is actually open to all the speakers. It's just something to throw in an interesting dimension into your conversation. If you were to just take language out for a moment, just what we define as art, what we define as spirituality, if we just take the boundaries of language, sometimes we want to discuss, when we want to say, okay, it was a spiritual moment, or we felt something when we were dancing, we want to say what is that moment, and so we call it spiritual, right? But let's say if you were to just look at it as a continuum, right? And it's not a one-time thing. I'm sure on a certain day you said like you felt it and another day you didn't. So it's not like once you hit it there, you're just going to keep floating there forever. You come down and one day you feel absolutely dry and you just don't have anything. So if for a second we were to take the complication of language out of it and just think of if the whole burden of language and what every word means were just taken out of the whole argument, then how would you put the whole thing? How would you maybe
Can
discuss?
I take that for the moment? You know, you must be a dancer, right? So there is nritta and abhinaya. Abhinaya has the expressive mode where language plays an important role. What about nritta? Nritta is extremely spiritual. There is absolutely no language that is communicated through it, but pure spiritual joy.
No. By language, I don't mean lyric. I don't mean text.
Okay.
I'm talking about definitions. I'm talking about what we call art, what we call spirituality. I'm talking about the complication of having to define something within a
but
word.
that already I think somebody said it's a very personal journey. We cannot be judgmental about so and so is not spiritual just because he's doing something
just
else.
to clarify, it was not so much about the content or the lyric, to say that we performed to, but like why the burden of language?
Were you here for Satyavati ma'am's speech? Yeah, so she made it very clear. She said the Nadopasana is tucked into language so that you can experience it at a material level, and then to go beyond it, you drop language anyway. So I think it's possible. I think dropping language, or what you call putting it into words or lyrics, is one level of it. So Praveen should be able to add to this, to what happens when you do sancharis just with music or with complete silence sometimes. Like at the end of a piece, you just sit there and there's only the shruti going on and nothing else, and you give yourself up. Or those moments, what happens then?
I hope it's not a narcissist view when I'm saying this. But the point was the performance that comes in today. In Trayanta, what happened was we were given a topic of Upanishads to be danced. That is the first time I started dealing with Upanishads. Coming to what does Upanishad mean, where Upanishads come, its historical background, all those things. And then you realize they're talking of Brahman every point of time, and there's no description of Brahman. There is no description. He comes to the point when he can break the seed, come to the point, he said, what? Out of the nothingness, if this can arise, that nothingness is Brahman. And to a full Saguna form, how do I show nothingness? And which word, they gave us lyrics, they gave us, helped it a lot. And my friend was helping me. I told her, why? What is the point of this story? When what is he aiming at, I can't show. And so it led me to a complete journey where there are no lyrics in the whole piece. I had to use words, of course, to connect these pieces for an audience to know. And I'll also pardon myself because I'm going to come before the show and explain the piece a bit more, because it leads to abstraction. And abstraction is difficult for Indian audiences. We are still not open, we are not learnt it that way, that's the only thing. But only abstraction worked. It starts with a story where Brahman multiplies, manifests himself into multiple realities. How do I show that? To abstraction. He says life in the ascending circle of lives, of births and deaths. So it is possible to look at it. But finally, I'm speaking to you through words. I communicate to you through words.
Any other questions? Yeah.
This also I would like to throw open to everybody. This is from the perspective of a young teacher of this art form. Many times when I try to teach students Varnam, especially the Sringara Varnams, these days children ask me back, you keep saying it's this Jivatma Paramatma, you keep saying it has this underlying philosophy of bhakti and yearning and whatever, but how are we supposed to achieve it? How do you, so as a teacher, am I supposed to, how do I teach and take them into that path and tell them, see, this is the way to, this is how you will understand it, or this is how you should seek it through the Varnam. Otherwise for them it's just another dance piece. Am I making myself clear?
Yeah.
Whether they learn a Kirtanam or a Varnam or a Padam or whatever, I mean, how can I initiate them as a teacher? I don't know. Can somebody please help me?
So first and foremost, you tell them, the composers of the Varnams are all men, most of these quartet Varnams. So it is not female to male or whatever. So the Jivatma coming closer to the Paramatma. So this is very challenging, as you said, because in today's times, the kind of sancharis that we all use, first of all, becomes very difficult to relate with the students, who will start thinking, why should, a typical heroine wait so much or yearn, and the Lord is like a deaf person. So here is where you have to go into the next layer of how those days the Varnams were composed to evoke the rasa in the primal deity. So the performers in these temples were doing these Varnams in order to make Shiva, for example, respond to their prayer. So that's how this, you can say, the historical lineages come through. And here, to the present times, you make them understand that each and every bhava that they do, which forms the first, for example, don't give them very long jatis, I request you. What happens is, between the first and the second and the third sahitya, even the audience loses the track of what is happening. Mm-hmm. So it's like one layer to the other layer, where the great composers, who were all Vidya worshippers or Yantra worshippers themselves, were initiated into going from one avarana to the next avarana and then reaching to the Garbhagriha, that is the sanctum sanctorum. So they are first removing that egotistic self in you, which binds you to the earth and says, this is I, me, mine, and so and so. So from that layer, you go to the next level. And then you come closer to the deity, you start looking at the aura of the deity and say, this Lord has got so many weapons. He's the one who achieved that feat. And then how in the second half, really the Varnam goes into the next, the pace itself goes faster. So there is very much a mystical diagram which has been put up by these great composers, because they were familiar even with the architectural diagram of the temples. And it is certainly take it up as a very positive challenge. I request you to read more also on this subject on Varnams.
And contextualize them to
Yes.
temples that they were written for.
Yes, exactly.
It's just a curiosity, I'm just checking. See, when you say Jivatma Paramatma, I'm just asking, do we always have to relate to Paramatma when you're saying that person? Because I'm just saying now what Indu questioned. If you're teaching a young student, obviously Jivatma Paramatma is over the sixer when you talk to them. It will just go whoosh. If you're just generally talking about Paramatma, it can just be just a other person. I'm just giving an example. I'm saying, if I am a heroine, if I'm waiting for a hero, for me, that is a Paramatma for me. Yeah? So I'm just curious if I'm
That's
asking.
why
if
we have
this-
so
the-
many other newer Varnams also.
Yeah, so
right?
what
You
I'm
can-
asking
depends
is
on
if
which
the-
Varnam
if
that you
we
want
have-
to teach the children.
If we have a Sanchari saying that I'm waiting for him, I'm pining for him, doesn't even today's generation girls pine and wait?
Absolutely. Brilliant point. I agree. And my whole idea of God itself has changed. I said, I asked them in turn, I said, give me an ideal that you cannot reach easily. You know,
So here you have to tell them it's
so
not about
it can
girl
be
and
from a
boy.
scoop of ice cream to Hrithik Roshan. I've got the whole range. You know, at 13 years of age, dance-wise, Hrithik Roshan might be the greatest thing. She says, I can't reach that level of dancing. And I think as a guru, I also have to be open-minded. I said, give me an ideal that you cannot reach easily, and that is Paramatma.
So Paramatma doesn't have to be like there only. He can be next to you,
No.
front of you also.
So that's the whole effort, not to humanize the divine and divinize the human. That's where you can meet.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, it's not a woman, the composers
never.
were all men. So that's where you break the gender barrier and tell them the man, the singular man is having a, from the binary, he's now going into a union. So from Dvaita, he's moving into an Advaitic journey. So.
I think there's one last question that we can take.
Since the topic is art and spirituality in Indian dance, music, and visual art, I have this question about, I think from morning we've been talking in the classical context. If we take it the non-classical context, for example, Kripanand Devariyar in those days, he might not have had a great voice as such, but in getting into the depth of classical music or Shruti Shuddham or Swarasthanam, a lot of them, especially even a lot of people who chant Ramanama, they go in the same tune again and again and again. So my question is, how important do you think the form, the perfection or getting into the grammar of an art form is important for an audience to understand, or even for the artist to get involved and to be able to get into spirituality?
Grammar is extremely important, but grammar cannot create poetry. So that technique, sound foundation, if you ask me personally, who came first before your studies, it's not Bharata, it is first your guru. So that guru who gives you the grammar itself, at the same time makes you, from the beginning itself when he starts teaching you Abhinaya, makes you understand on what level. It's not something that is coming right from the blackboard to the textbook. It is something that is transferred, isn't it? So grammar is important, because without that, you will yourself not be able to, have that sacred geometry inside you. So once you become a form of the sacred geometry, you can throw it upon the others to catch it from you, right?
I would just like to answer this in simpler terms that everybody can understand. I keep telling my students that imagine you're writing a composition, English composition for a 5 mark. Okay, you go wrong in grammar, the teacher is going to underline that and cut marks. It's as simple as that. Grammar is important for the content to even reach. And unless there is proper grammar, the content is not even going to reach. And then happens the rasa, the poetry, the next level of having good, the relishment of the composition. Okay, even for a basic content to reach somebody, you need grammar. So there's like no two ways about giving up grammar. And each form has a different grammar. So classicality, ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರೀಯ ನಟನಕ್ಕೆ ಬೇರೆ ಗ್ರಾಮರ್. ಅದೇ ಥರ ಇಫ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಜಪ, ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಕಾಂಗ್ರಿಗೇಷನಲ್ ಸಿಂಗಿಂಗ್, ದ ಗ್ರಾಮರ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಇಸ್ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಈಚ್ form has a different grammar, and without the grammar the content doesn't reach. You can't do away with.
There are some great saint poets. Kripananda Varyar is also in that category, so who are beyond all those so-called parameters, you say, but they automatically the grammar flows because their level of bhakti is so high. So you cannot really define their compositions by the typical terms of grammar. When he says Ramanama, he has already touched the Atma Rama inside, you know. So you cannot put him into this kind of a dichotomy.
I think we are running short of time, so thank you to all the panelists. I think from what we have understood, it's technique to beyond technique, person to beyond the person, and from artist to forgetting who we are, and so that we transcend to a higher self, hopefully. So thank you to all of you for being a part of this discussion. Thank you, sir, for having us.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.
Thank you, Vinaka, for having us here.
ಬೆಳಗಿನಿಂದ ನಡೀತಾ ಇರುವಂತಹ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಗಳನ್ನು ನೋಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇವೆ. ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಖುಷಿ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಕಲಾವಿದರು ಕೇವಲ ಪರ್ಫಾರ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ ಕಡೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕಾನ್ಸಂಟ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡದೆ ಬಿಯಾಂಡ್ ಇಟ್ ಯೋಚನೆಗಳು ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ವಿಚಾರಗಳ ಗ್ರಹಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾರೆ, ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರುಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಇಂಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದೇ ಮಾಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿರುವಂತಹ ವಿಚಾರ. ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಎಲ್ಲ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪರ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಅವರವರ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಕೋನಗಳು, ಅವರವರ ಅನುಭವಗಳು, ಒಂದು ನಮ್ಮ ಡಾನ್ಸ್ ಸಂಬಂಧಪಟ್ಟ ಹಾಗೆ ಈ ರೀತಿ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಗಳು ಬಂದರೆ ಒಂದು ರೀತಿ ಸೌಹಾರ್ದತೆಯಿಂದ ನಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಜಗಳಗಳಾಗಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಸಾಹಿತ್ಯದ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಜಗಳಾಗೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲ ಆ ಥರದ ಜಗಳ ಆಗಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ಸೌಹಾರ್ದತೆಯಿಂದ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಮಯದ ಅಭಾವ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅದಾಗಿಲ್ಲ.
ಇದು ಒಂದು ಬೋಧಪ್ರದವಾದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಸೆಷನ್ಸ್ ಆಯಿತು ಇದು ಕೂಡ ಅನ್ನುವಂತಹದ್ದು ನಮಗೆ ಬಹಳ ಖುಷಿಯಾಗಿರೋ ವಿಚಾರ. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಲಾವಿದರಿಗೂ ಗೌರವಿಸುವಂತಹ ಸಂದರ್ಭ. ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಜಯಚಂದ್ರನ್ ಮತ್ತು ಪದ್ಮಿನಿ ಶ್ರೀಧರ್ ಇಬ್ಬರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬಂದು ಈ ಕಲಾವಿದರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಪ್ಯಾನೆಲ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಗೋಷ್ಠಿ ಏನಿತ್ತು ಅದನ್ನು ನಿರ್ವಹಿಸಿದಂತಹ ನರ್ತಕಿ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಜನನಿ ಮುರಳಿ ಅವರು ದಯಮಾಡಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಹಾಗೆ ಪ್ಯಾನಲ್ ಸ್ಪೀಕರ್ಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಕೂಡ ನಮ್ಮ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮೊದಲಿಗೆ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪೂರ್ಣಿಮಾ ಗುರುರಾಜ. ಸರ್ ಹಾಗೆ ನೀವು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ತೆಗಿಯೋದು ಬೇಡ, ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿರಲಿ. ಯಾ ಗುರು ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪೂರ್ಣಿಮಾ ಗುರುರಾಜ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಗೌರವ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಅವರು ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಶ್ರೀ ವೈಭವ್ ಅರೇಕರ್. ಶ್ರೀ ಪಿ ಪ್ರವೀಣ್ ಕುಮಾರ್. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ಪದ್ಮಜಾ ಸುರೇಶ್. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ವಿದ್ಯಾರಾವ್. ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ದ್ವರಿತಾ ವಿಶ್ವನಾಥ್. ಇನ್ನು ಈ ಇಂಟ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಸೆಷನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಇಬ್ಬರು ಯುವ ಕಲಾವಿದರನ್ನು ಆಹ್ವಾನಿಸಿದ್ರು. ವೀಣಾ ಅವರು, ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರು ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಬರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಕುಮುದಾ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂದು ವೇಣು, ದಯಮಾಡಿ ತಾವಿಬ್ಬರು ಬರಬೇಕು ವೇದಿಕೆ ಮೇಲೆ. Both are the observers of this panel discussion, Kumuda Chandrasekhar and Indu Venu.
I think it was, I would rather congratulate the moderator. Hearty congratulations to the, I was just putting my leg into her shoes and feeling, I think I would not been able to do what she did. Because you have such a big cream of the people out here, everyone are experienced, scholarly, in their own field, their respective work. Beautiful questions, sensible time management. Oh, wonderful, wonderful way you have done. But as Dr. Padmada Suresh, she started it, I would, the same thing which was very interesting is, the moment we are speaking about spirituality, she rightly said something, at times it can be very awful that we don't want to actually speak about it. You can completely be given a googly, like a thing that actually it might even say something which is totally unrequired for the normal Laukika life at all. And that's why suggestively certain things also comes here, that do we actually want to speak on spirituality, or is it something to be trained? Is it trainable? First of all, an Indic thought, there were many people who were suggesting about this idea of training and spirituality, because spirituality doesn't come just by doing something. Someone has to instruct you to look apple a particular way. Like, it can be looked at that. And this is just an opinion to all of us here. I think most of us are responsible people who are shouldering the responsibility of being an artist. That the moment we use the word Atman, I think we have to be very responsible. This is my very humble feeling about it. A request that we have to actually get into the crux of this word, which people have poured their commentaries on it. Let us also, we are comfortably speaking about Atman and spirituality. We all of us, also in our subconscious, we all know that there is a valid Nastika tradition in the Indic soil. What about the Bauddha, the Jaina, the Ajivikas, who have no idea of spirit at all? And like, in the fact, like, do they don't have spirituality? Now the question is, I'm not, the only thing is, as a team of everyone here, learned, experienced, most of us in the hall where I'm standing is a scholar. All of them have worked their work. But the moment we are using these technical terms in India, which are Indic words, I think we have to be trained to use these words. When we use the word art and spirituality, are we using it in the Greek sense, which has entered into English dictionary, or are we using it in Indic sense? Because if we don't put that context there, all of us are in a way confused. Someone saying goodness is spirituality, someone is saying happiness is spirituality. Well, this is not so subjective. This is only a placement, and we would, as a team, since we are engaged in training these words into young minds of next generation, we are putting these words into their mouth. We have to take that extra inch that we also imbibe as we rightly say, that grammar, or else we don't use it. Best is, this is only my opinion. I would reserve it. You can, all of us can have opinions on it, but this is my opinion that we would, he rightly said, after when he got an opportunity to imbibe about Upanishad, then only one entered into it, then found the gravity of it. So I think we would also take that one extra inch of a step to know what Atman is. Then we would speak about Jiva, then Parama. Does it even exist? Or what about the schools which don't even speak about it? They are very interesting and methodical training also. Just as a point of submission, to say that perhaps we are the only people at this 2019 October, this month, we are interested to speak about spirituality, a very small, tiny group. And I think we would also walk that extra mile to learn about it thoroughly and henceforth put a word forward. Thank you so much. There's only a cross interference. And it is so interesting that at the practice level, how every one of us absorbed this word called spirituality. It is in the context of everyone has come up with some kind of a sadhana, which we can't say no. Everyone has. Yeah. Because if it's a technical context, we will put it in a technical context. Non-technical, because language also affords that. Something can be used in technical, same thing can be non-technically used. So I think that would resolve most of the problems. I opine that I would just put it to the others.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so very much. ಕುಮುದಾ ಚಂದ್ರಶೇಖರ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇಂದು ವೇಣು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಅಭಿನಂದನೆಗಳನ್ನ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸುವಂತಹ ಸಂದರ್ಭ ದಯಮಾಡಿ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರು ಸ್ವೀಕರಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ನಾನು ವಿನಂತಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಮೈ ಕಾಲ್ ಅಪಾನ್ ಕುಮುದಾ ಅಂಡ್ ಇಂದು. ಮತ್ತೊಮ್ಮೆ ಎಲ್ರಿಗೂ ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳು.